Fresh out the box.
there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out, the podcast, the number one podcast. If you like fresh facts and fun times, I am the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Jahananan.
It's me, Casualty CDG, and I haven't been around, and I was filled in for by people who did an abysmal job. So I have returned to reclaim the throne that is rightfully mine.
And I am the professional media and movie mastermind, The Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and this is episode 91 of Fresh Out the Podcast. We're going to be talking a lot of Xbox on this show, which we talk a lot of Xbox on the show anyway, but this time in particular, I would say we have good news to speak about. I put in quotes, cautiously optimistic good news to speak of in the Xbox front. But first, I did want to talk about some news that hit today. It's rare that we record when some fresh, hot news hit during the day. And I just thought it was some interesting water cooler talk. And this is specifically the news.
Just a moment. I would like to make an aside that this news is not fresh. It may be hot, but it is not fresh at all. This is not fresh news.
Gary does not like this news. I don't know what we're talking about.
This is rotten. This is rotten news.
So Disney has revealed a big shakeup of their movie release calendar, and they are delaying pretty much everything. Some things got moved forward, but this list includes everything from Avatar to the Marvel movies to the Star Wars franchise to the main Disney entries, and there's just a lot of shifts, and I think it's a little bit overwhelming to look at it first because this list goes through 2031. Is the latest that it goes. So we're talking way into the future. I think that it's worth noting.
So talking about early 2031. This goes to December of 2031, all the way to the end.
So it's not uncommon for Disney to delay things like this, as they actually did it late last year or at some point last year because a bunch of things got moved, like Ant-Man and the Wasp got shifted. The Marvels got shifted. It was supposed to come out this summer. It's coming out in November. There's a bunch of things that have been shifted around. So they're no stranger to doing this, and they did not give a reason for doing it. However, it's worth noting that there's a writer's strike that's been going on for a while now, and from the news that I've been following, it's probably not coming to a close anytime soon. We're probably looking at several more months of this writer's strike going on. So I think that they are probably just looking ahead and trying to, prepare for some of that. But some of the things that were worth noting here, the first one that's on the list is Captain America Brave New World, which is the Sam Wilson Falcon Captain America movie that's supposed to come out in May of 2024. Now that's moved to July. And there's a lot of things like that. Thunderbolts moved from July of 24 to December 24. There's an untitled Alien movie that's slated for 2024, which I believe that's like the Ridley Scott Alien franchise is what that means, because that's Disney has acquired that as part of the Fox.
That'd be funny if
acquisition.
It was just Paul 2.
Oh boy, like the Seth Rogen voice stoner alien movie.
Yeah, with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Yeah.
Oh boy,
it'd be really funny.
I forgot that existed. When you said Paul, I thought of Ted, which a little bit better, but not much.
Blade got moved from September of 2024 to February of 2025.
This is horrible news.
Deadpool got moved sooner. It was slated for November of 2024. They moved it up to May of 2024. So that must mean that I think that Ryan Reynolds is a big part of the writing process there, and so I think they might not be relying on the WGA as much for that one.
That could be part of.
I read something that I don't know if it's true or not about that movie, about Deadpool and the writer's strike, and maybe you can shine some insight by this time next week, or maybe you already know it's a rumor or something, but I had heard that because of the writer's strike, there is no ad-libbing in Deadpool. They have to stick to the script 100% until the writers come back. You can't rewrite or change anything, but I don't know if that's true.
I believe that is true in general on WGA scripts. Like if it's a script written by a WGA member and they're not on hand, I don't think you can make changes or amendments to
That
it.
makes sense.
However, if I don't know if this is a fact, I could probably find out, but we're in the middle of a record right now, so I'm just going to speak hypothetically. If Ryan Reynolds, say, is one of the writers on Deadpool 3 and he is not part of the WGA, then they don't have to, those rules would not apply. However, a lot of times it might be written by him and other people who are part of the WGA. So I don't know. There's like some gray area there, and I'm definitely no expert as far as those technicalities, as far as the rules go. But just for sake of hypothetical
some
talk,
insight into it. I'm sure there's always a workaround. Like you could call it bloopers. So I forgot the line, and this is just a blooper, and we decided to use it. I'm sure there's workarounds and things, but thank you for shining some actual insight into it.
That's interesting,
Yeah.
for sure. It's weird that they moved it up, given everything that's going on. So maybe it could also have to do with the content of the movie being more relevant to the future of the MCU.
I think that bodes well. Obviously they've made headway on that. It was back in September where they announced that Hugh Jackman was going to be a part of it. So I think that they kind of have their ducks in a row with it, and maybe they just need to film. Because, May, that's less than a year away that would be coming out, which 2024 sounds like it's a long ways away, but we're already almost midway through 2023, amazingly enough. So it's just crazy how fast time passes. We just had Avatar 2 this past December, and Avatar 3 just got moved from December of 2024 to December of 2025. It's definitely safe to say that's not a Writers Guild thing. That's probably a James Cameron thing, I would assume, because as far as we know, that movie is shot already, and they're likely just taking their sweet time with the visual effects. And it probably helps with Disney's slate anyway, with them having to shift so many things around. I think the thing that raised my eyebrows the most reading all of these moves, though, is that Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, the first of their, two-part next Avengers deal, that got moved from May of 2025 to May of 2026. So they've delayed that a full year. There's a lot of things you can speculate there. You could say Writers Guild. You could say Jonathan Majors. You could say, there's a lot of question marks there, which of course means that Avengers: Secret Wars got moved from May 2026 to May of 2027. So now you're getting into these years that seem super far off. The stuff that's less, I feel like is less relevant is you got a lot of like Disney's live action Moana was dated for July of 2025 and it got moved to June of 2025. Little things like that. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Of all the untitled Disney stuff. The other thing that raised an eyebrow for me, though, is untitled Star Wars movie previously dated December 2025 moved to May of 2026. And so obviously we always joke about all these Star Wars projects they've announced for film and whether or not they'll even come out. Here you see another delay, but it just blows my mind that Rise of Skywalker came out in 2019 and we're not going to see another Star Wars movie in theaters until at least 2026, assuming things don't get moved around again. Which
that's the way it was supposed to be. That's how the first trilogy did it. You gotta wait 20 years. It makes it fresh again.
Yeah, no joke. And then the last two entries are Avatar 4 and Avatar 5, which have moved to December of 2029 and December of 2031, respectively.
They're making 5?
Oh, yeah. They've already shot 3. I think they've shot bits of 4 and 5, but James Cameron has plans for it. It's just unclear if he will be the one that actually ends up directing those. But I think they're...
actually watched Avatar Wet this past week and these past couple days. So I'm excited to talk about it later.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because these are obviously the movies that we take the most time on our show really diving into and doing full episode reviews. And so when all this stuff gets moved around and gives a lot of cause for speculation, I do think that the biggest reason for all this personally is the writer's strike. I think they're just looking ahead and the fact that there's not really an end in sight. So they're just making the move now to shift these things to make it a little bit easier on themselves in the long run. Take the hit now with the news articles and then just let it be. But some of these,
I just don't understand why they announce things so far out. Like, you don't know. You don't know that's coming out.
Right.
Like, get out of here. Like, we don't need to, like...
I agree, John. Just looking at this list is like a pencil list, you know? It's just all penciled.
None of that's written in pen.
It doesn't matter.
And there's little weird things that you can read into, like untitled Marvel movie that was dated on July of 2025 has been updated to just untitled Disney movie. And it's like, okay, so are they taking Marvel movies off the schedule or replacing with other things? There's a couple of those.
Well, maybe it's Disney because it crossovers.
I don't think it's worth looking that much into, but it's just, I don't know. I read through every single one of these and go,
Well, Disney's the umbrella that they're all under, so potentially, maybe we finally get Darth Vader versus Predator.
You never know.
This is a really good one off
point.
the list. I'd like to read this one. Untitled Alien Event Movie is the updated title of Untitled Disney.
And I believe that's like I said, from the Alien franchise. I think that's what they're doing there, but the fact that it's just called Alien Event Movie, I don't know. I'm interested to see where the Alien franchise goes under
Alien Event.
Disney umbrella.
They're funny.
I don't
It's
think
just like
the
a
last-
birthday party.
I don't think the last Alien
That is
movie
an
was
alien
much of an
event.
event. Like, do people show up for the Alien movies now? I do, but are they event movies? I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless it is Alien versus Obi-Wan Kenobi or, whatever it may be, like you've suggested.
They were. I mean, I showed up for everyone sent up until what was it? Primordial. You talking about
Prometheus?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
And then Prometheus was meh. And then the Alien Covenant or whatever, the one with Danny McBride, was also meh.
Mm-hmm. I like Prometheus a little bit. The weird thing about Prometheus is that it wasn't really promoted as an Alien movie, but people speculated that it was. And sure enough, it was. And so,
and it was
at least Alien Covenant
okay,
was up front.
but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was okay.
It wasn't great. And I don't know.
Well, do we want to go ahead and shift gears here, in our Forza cars and move into the Xbox showcase?
Yeah, sure.
So this one's for our video game fans. And if you're not a video game fan, you just I don't know, fast forward 35 minutes probably.
Yeah, good
There's a
luck with
big
this one.
Xbox showcase.
And eat my ass.
You know what's funny is I thought it went by pretty fast, and as I was watching it, I didn't think there was that much shown. But then when you look at these images after of all the games that they did show, I'm like, oh yeah, there really was a decent amount there. But before we get into any,
because it was really funny to me watching it. I was live texting you guys also.
Yeah, we were
and,
live texting. That was
sometimes
fun.
we would text back for 2 or 3 trailers, but most of the time we were pretty much there with each other talking about it. And it was funny to me because, like you said, it didn't seem like much. But everything that I wasn't excited for, you guys were excited for, or at least one of you was. So the whole time my phone was like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. We were all excited about something, which I thought that was cool. There's something in this showcase for everybody, I felt.
well, I want to ask you before we jump into any individual games, I wanted to get just kind of an overall letter grade from each of you for how you would rate this show and just how positive you were on it or negative that you may be. I'm curious. And John, I'll start with you. What were your overall thoughts on the show? Was this a good showing for Microsoft?
They got me hyped for games, which I didn't think they were going to be able to do because I'm pretty disillusioned with Xbox at the moment. They got me hyped for some stuff. I would overall give them a B. It was much better than I expected it to be, but by no means do I think this was where they want to be in terms of anything. They had some big titles that did a good showing. They had a good showing. But the problem with Xbox and Microsoft has been rollout. And they're showing us stuff that looks great, and then it turns to shit in your hand, and it's, you know. So B, I give it a B. I'll believe it when I see it. They have no. They used up all my faith. I have no faith. They have to show me.
Gary, how about you?
I also am a B. I give it a B plus. I think it's on the high side of B. I'm excited for a lot of these titles, and immediately after the showcase, some of them came to the download now or add to play later on your Xbox. And I think I added 3 or 4 titles off of that list I'm already excited for. So I'd say overall it was a pretty good showcase. I was bored by the end and ready for it to be over. There were definitely things I was not excited for, but that's any showcase, that's to be expected. It's like the Persona stuff. I think Jahan was super excited for Persona Tactics, or there was a remake.
That's me. I'm Persona guy for sure.
Yeah, but the Tactics one was right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
So, those I'm not feeling, but you guys are so feeling it that I still think that those are wins. It's just not a win for me, but I think they're still wins for the Xbox community.
I'm right there with you guys. It sounds like we're all on the same page. I was debating this earlier of like, would I give it an A- or a B+, and I think I'm settled on a B+ right there with you, Gary. I think that in the long run, I think this was a good show. And I do feel like with this show, we were finally starting to see some of the fruits of Microsoft, their labors from the games division with some of their studio acquisitions. Like we got to see Compulsion Games and inXile's first games they've created fully from the ground up since being a part of Microsoft. Like Wasteland 3 came out. Well, they were already working on that when Microsoft officially purchased them as far as inXile goes. Things like that. So that... some of those things, it was nice to see there are some true first-party exclusives on the horizon that look new and interesting, which is exciting. We got to look at Fable, things like that. So I thought those were really good. There are things to look forward to, and it looks like they weren't just flaunting everything that's so far in the future that we're going to be waiting years and years. I think that everything they showed will be out within a reasonable timeline is kind of the impression I'm under. I think
I was not happy with that Fable teaser trailer that said real in-game footage and then just basically showed Richard Ayoade cinematic. Like, that's not, call it game footage, I guess, but that's not gameplay. And calling that real in-game footage felt like a slap in the face. I've been let down by so many Fable titles in my life that if you're not showing me gameplay, I don't care.
Which one let you down?
I want to care. Every single game was worse than its predecessor, and we were lied to about what was going to be in the first one.
That's a hot take.
Not work.
I mean, I think the second one. I think the second one's actually the best one. So
I agree.
I think the third one is worse than the second one, but the second one's better than the first one for sure. I would say. So I don't say they just get worse. I don't know, just slightly different. I would slightly change your list.
In defense of that, though, and like I totally understand what you're saying, Gary, because even though we saw that, we're like, okay, but what does it actually look like when you're playing the game? I think that's an issue.
Yes. So what's the game?
This is that weird loophole they found, because it used to be back in the day at E3, they would show these fully CG trailers for games that looked cool, like cool animations that made something look flashy, but it was then the game would come out, it would look nothing like that because it was a CG trailer developed fully for E3 or whatever show it was. So at least with this, it's in-engine, so it's like that's what the game will look like in general, but just not what it'll look like when you're actually playing. I don't know, it's strange.
As soon as I cast lightning or summon rats, then the whole game will crash because it can't run all those renderings at the same time. So it's not really what the game's going to look like or function like at those rates when you get into the game. It's just, I don't know. I want to see, like I said, I got to see gameplay, man. Any cinematic trailer, like you said, they started doing that crap during E3. Any cinematic trailer can just go right away. I don't care. I'm not interested. Show me the game.
I was fine with cinematic trailers in the days when video game companies were run by video game artists and creators and people that gave a shit. But now they're run by corporations and they're run for profit purely. And they've lost. Like, I don't have. Like, you have to show me. Like I said, yeah, I don't. Fucking trailers. They used to be cool because I trusted that they could back it up. But now I don't. So, you know.
That's right. I don't trust they can back it up. You know, anyone can make a cool video on YouTube. That doesn't mean they can make a great video game. And that's not that anyone can make a cool video on YouTube, but you get my point. A cool trailer does not make a cool game.
I think my biggest thing, though, is I was asking myself, okay, if I'm going to give this showcase a B or a B+, what would make it an A? And I think, like you said, Gary, if we had really seen some Fable gameplay or something like that. But I also just kind of feel like it's silly because Starfield looked amazing, and obviously the end was dedicated to a real deep dive into Starfield. But I feel like from a selfish point of view and just the feed me more aspect of it I feel like the show was lacking that one more thing. Like,
yes.
Just give me one more thing, a big reveal or something to get excited about, even if it's just a quick look at whatever they're doing with the Perfect Dark reboot game that they're I can't think of what their studio is. Microsoft built a game studio from the ground up to work on a game, and they're building a new Perfect Dark game. And I kind of thought maybe we would see it here because we know they've been working on it for a while. We didn't get any word there. I don't know. I just was waiting for that one more thing, and maybe that's me being greedy, but
I don't think it is, man. I think that this was like Starfield blew me away. I was really impressed. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But they had some genuinely cool stuff they showed that I'm excited for. But there was nothing really like new. There's no surprise. Like, Xbox needs to start new IPs. They need these new exclusive IPs that are a big deal, and they don't have them.
I want to be the dissenting opinion on this one. I think it was just they could have marketed their show a little different, and I think they could have pushed Avowed as a bigger title to be more excited about. I think that Avowed is sort of a sleeper hit on here, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it is a new IP. So
Yes.
I think that one more thing that we're missing is there. I think it was there the whole time.
Do they own
They
Obsidian?
just didn't present it to us that way. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay, so that's going to be a new exclusive IP. I mean, that's good. Yeah, exactly. They didn't present it that way.
Yes,
And
they really could have shown it off as, and here's another Grand Slam, but they kind of rolled it in with the other titles.
yeah.
And maybe if they saved time so they could really focus on Starfield at the end, who knows? But I think that one more thing that you want, I think it's in here already.
looking at the list of all of the games here, there's 27 games that are on the image I have in front of me. And of those, like 6 of these games are DLCs or expansions to games that already exist.
Yeah.
You've got expansions for Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Sea of Thieves, Overwatch 2, and Flight Simulator. So, like, okay, those are cool, I guess, if you're interested in those games, but whatever. And then I'm legit counting out loud as I'm looking at this, but like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these are sequels or franchise, to pre-existing games. Persona 3 is a remake. So there's a few things there where I'm like, these are great things, but I'm like, I always like to be surprised with new things, and so I feel like of those
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's about 8 or 9 completely new things.
which that's a good
Maybe
amount,
10.
But like Starfield, we knew that was coming, and we've kind
Yeah.
of seen that. Luckily, we got to see a lot more, and I think it's enough to get hyped for. So there's that. I'm going to start going through these now. Forza Motorsport. I like the Forza games, especially the Horizon games, but a Forza trailer is just a Forza trailer to me. Like they all are, the pretty cars. Cool.
And I prefer Horizon series over the Motorsport series. The Motorsport series are really focused on a driving simulator, Gran Turismo type of experience, and the Horizon ones are open world, arcade, off road. They're just a blast. The seasons change, so the conditions change. So definitely a Horizon fan. I could pass on Motorsport, man.
I agree.
I'm not. I don't race. I don't do racing games except Mario Kart and stuff like that. Like I play cartoony racers, but you have to give Forza credit that they are consistent. They roll out consistently, like every few years. You know, they don't like their schedule is pretty consistent and their quality is consistent. It's just I don't know. I have to give them something for that because
You're absolutely
We're
right.
not
And like while
racing
these
game
games,
guys.
yeah,
But when we talk about exclusives for Xbox, this is one that racing game guys are probably screaming at their monitors when we talk about
Yeah.
stuff like this. Talk about Forza. Forza's great. But again, I love Horizon, not Motorsport. That's not my jam.
yeah. I mean, we can spare the word.
exactly.
It looks great. It looks good. If you're a racing fan person, yeah, absolutely. This is Xbox Game Pass day one. So,
Right, yeah, driving sims aren't necessarily for me, but it's clear that Forza is the best driving sim on the market, which is an impressive feat considering the market share that Gran Turismo had for so long and how popular that game was. And I think that Forza Motorsport has passed that. I think that the true enthusiasts are playing for. I'm sure. I mean, Gran Turismo people still play those. Don't get me wrong, and love those, and they're still great games. But I think Forza kind of edged it out. That being said, Gran Turismo is getting a movie that's coming out this year, so it's
Yeah.
going to be in getting a big share of the
Next
attention.
up
in a
is
bit.
the sequel, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2.
did you guys play the first one?
I did, and it's very good,
It's
but
very
it's a
good.
short game. You know, you can beat it in like 6 to 7 hours, and it's fairly linear, but it's very good.
It's very good.
I'm interested
Gary,
to see.
Trigger warning for that one. Maybe skip it.
Yeah, so initially I wasn't going to play it. I had no intention. Usually, I like to play a game with a customizable character and some story where I can make some decisions, but just watching this trailer for part 2, it looked really cool. And if the first one is, a shorter version of that, then maybe I should go give it a play.
The
It looks
first
like
one-
it just has these awesome cinematic moments that are pretty unrivaled.
I would describe the first Hellblade as kind of a Souls style almost. Not quite really. You're not really supposed to die. But the combat feels very much like that Souls kind of combat. It's Souls minus like the constant death, which is nice. And then Zelda, like puzzles. Like
Well, and
mixed in,
the-
and it's pretty fun.
The first game also builds itself up on the sound a lot. That's a major factor of it because the main character hears voices, and so they actually recommend you play it with headphones on because when you're in combat, the voices will speak and tell you like in what direction the enemies are coming from. So you have to listen to that because the combat can be pretty difficult.
And it's kind of upsetting. It's kind of
combat.
disturbing, and like there's a trigger warning for depictions of psychosis.
Yeah, mental health issues are big.
I'll
A
play
big
that
theme.
game at an arm's reach. I'll
Uh,
be sure to turn it off if it's overwhelming.
Honestly, it's kind of an amazing game. They did something there. The second one, this is a solid franchise for Xbox. I think that they're smart to do another one.
Well, the first one, it's worth noting, came out before Microsoft had purchased Ninja Theory, so it was for PlayStation as well, and it was
Oh,
I wouldn't say a smaller game because it's a good game, but it's just it's a shorter experience. And now they've been working on this one for so long. I'm kind of curious to see what this is going to look like. We've seen a lot of visuals and cinematics, and it looks very great. But I'm wondering if this is going to be on the same scale as like one of the recent Sony God of War games. Like, are they going that big with it, or is this still going to be a solid 8 to 9 hour experience of a story focused game? I don't know.
I feel more of that would be true because I've heard interviews with the creators of this game, and like they very much care about the story over everything else. So yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit about Fable. I was just glad that it was here in general because I just was unclear of how far out that game is. But like you said, Gary, while we saw it, and there was some good humor, and the atmosphere of it seemed good, and the in-engine stuff looked good. We didn't actually see any real gameplay here. We just saw some of what the world, I guess, will feel like, more so than what it'll be like playing the game.
We saw nothing. Microsoft dragged their balls across our face. That's what happened.
That is exactly what happened. We were shown a video that, if we are to believe, then we are returning to a fantasy setting with Jack and the giant beanstalk type of things. But I bet this game doesn't have giants when it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very similarly. I feel like that was just a complete mislead. And I don't know. But yeah, I'd be thrilled to play Fable 4, but I don't want to hear shit about it until you have something to say.
We saw Avowed, which we actually did see some gameplay here, and I thought it looked fun. I mean, from what we saw, they did come out and say, and you and I, we all kind of messaged about this, but they said, Obsidian said this game's going to be more on the size and scope of something like the Outer Worlds rather than something like Skyrim, which I don't think is an unreasonable thing to expect from their game. And I really liked the Outer Worlds and spent a good amount of time with it, so that does not bother me at all. I think that sounds great, and
I also liked the Outer Worlds, except for if you killed every single NPC in the entire game, it didn't change your endings, which upset me because I spent a lot of time doing that. Just literally killing every single person, making sure they were all dead. I did like that you could do that was an option. And I agree with you. I like the speed of that game. I like the setting of that game. I think the world's big enough. You know, you only need 4 or 5 different worlds to travel to in a ship. I'm good there. Not every game needs to be an encyclopedia like Elder Scrolls. And I love that Elder Scrolls is an encyclopedia, and I will always love it for that. But I don't think that they should be put into a box where every game has to be that, or else they'll never hit their mark.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, open worlds can go horribly wrong. So, like, do it if you know what you're doing, but you don't have to. No one's making you. And if they're trimming it down for the sake of like the gameplay and the story, like, good. I was not a huge fan of Outer Worlds. I played it. I had trouble getting into it, and then eventually I was just like, all right, I'm done. I didn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't my favorite. I didn't like. It felt like almost Fallout to me. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, hey, I'm almost playing Fallout. This is almost fun. Like, it just wasn't that great for me. I know that that's not necessarily a popular opinion, but Avowed...
Wikipedia says that Avowed is the first-party game made by Obsidian since the purchase.
Excellent.
So this is the first one, I guess, that Obsidian has made from the ground up since Microsoft took over.
This looks very good. The magic that you wield looks awesome. Like, it looks fun, man. It looks deep. It looks like there's some deep combat. It's like Wizard Doom, but maybe with more RPG stuff to it. So I don't know, man. I will play this.
I do like the Wizard Doom comparison. That's fair.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Doom, but like with more depth. Because I'm not a big fan of the newer Dooms. It feels just like run and gun. And then, like, you get a different gun, and fine. But this is like that with RPG elements and magic. So I'm more into it.
I'm going to
skip,
kind of jump through a few things here, and group some things together. So, Elder Scrolls Online, Necrom. You've got Sea of Thieves, Monkey Island, Overwatch 2, Fallout 76, and Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty are all expansions or DLCs to existing games.
I would like to talk about Phantom Liberty a little bit. And also, so the thing with Overwatch 2, I'm very confused because they said they were nerfing their PvE stuff, but this expansion looks like it has PvE stuff in it. So I'm like, what are they... Like, why would you tell everyone and get everyone mad and then be like, oh, like, we're bringing out, maybe because, like, the backlash was too much?
Right.
Or
Overwatch 2 is a train wreck.
Overwatch 2's, yeah, they
at least was a train wreck.
They screwed the pooch,
train
man.
wreck, what they promised, train wreck. Yeah, they just what an absolutely terrible. Okay, Drew, I'm sorry to go off on a
Well,
tangent.
I was just gonna say,
Of that list, Cyberpunk is the one I put my hand up for. That's my pick of that list, without a doubt. Probably the only thing I'm excited about. Monkey Island will not bring me back to Sea of Thieves.
No.
I did to Sea of Thieves what Jahan did to Diablo. I played way too much Sea of Thieves when it came out. I grinded it into the ground, and I don't want to play Sea of Thieves ever again.
I
But
don't enjoy Sea of
Cyberpunk, give
Thieves.
it to me.
yeah, I'm with like I actually love the old school Monkey Island games, but I don't really play Sea of Thieves these days. And a Monkey Island expansion is not anything that's going to make me dive back into that game in particular. I don't play Elder Scrolls Online. I've never played Fallout 76. Cyberpunk, of course, I really liked, and I know that that game had a lot of issues when it launched, but I had an Xbox Series X at the time, luckily, and so I was actually able to play it without any major hiccups. There were still glitches and things in it, but I had a great experience with that game.
I
And
have
played a lot of it in a couple weeks, and so a full-on story expansion to that, I am happily going to probably jump back into that game.
Yeah, I have a Series S now, so I've been thinking about replaying Cyberpunk just to see how much better it really is, and I hear much, so that's exciting. But this Phantom Liberty looks good. They look like they cleaned up their act a bit and are taking this a little more seriously. So
And then-
I'm all in on that one.
Let's see. Okay, so now we've got Towerborn, which I kind of was laughing watching this because it was like if I remember correctly, it was like a side-scrolling looter co-op game, with getting different gear and things. And I'm in the middle of playing Diablo 4, so I'm like, oh man, by the time this comes out, I'm probably going to have no interest in this.
It
but it
reminds
looked
me.
cool.
It reminds me of Castle Crashers,
Yes, similar vibes for sure.
and it could be fun. I
I
mean, if
agree.
this is
It's
coming to
like
Game Pass,
Castle Crashers, but kind of cool instead
yeah.
of cartoony.
If this is coming to Game Pass, so I assume me and Gary will probably fucking throw down on this.
For sure.
Oh yeah, man, we're gonna have a mouthful of dicks when this game comes out.
Yeah.
Clockwork
Ugh.
Revolution, I believe, was the new game from In Exile. It had hardcore Bioshock Infinite vibes to me, with kind of like a
did.
steampunk atmosphere. First person. Looked cool to me.
Looked cool as shit
I-
to me too. After what was that game? Atomic
Heart.
After my crushing disappointment from Atomic Heart, I'm a little skeptical, but I will play this. Man, you don't hear anyone talk about Atomic Heart. That game just came out, it was done. It was bad.
When I saw
still have
this
it downloaded
trailer,
to play.
I thought it was Atomic Heart DLC, so I stopped paying attention. I got up and left the room. So I actually didn't watch this trailer.
It's not.
I was like, nope.
I recommend
totally
checking
thought
it out.
of
It looked
Atomic
good.
Heart.
It does look good. I've just lots of
That's
Take
just
it
how
things with a
bad
grain of salt
Atomic
here,
Heart was. It's just I don't
was so
even want
bad.
DLC for it.
so bad. Worst opening sequence of all time.
This next game, I can't see.
Path of the
name.
Goddess.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to remember what this even was.
Path of
Wasn't
the
it like
Goddess
kind of a-
actually looked solid. It was like a Asian mythology game. I'm not sure what the gameplay is like, but it kind of reminded me vaguely of watching like combat in Jade Empire. I don't think.
Oh,
it's
that's
gonna-
right.
I don't think
I
it's
just
gonna
pulled
be
up
that
images from-
because Jade Empire was fantastic. I feel like that game was like super underrated. I feel like I want to see Jade Empire 2. That's what I want to see. Where's it at Xbox? But Path of the Goddess.
The quick description says that Path of the Goddess is an Onimusha-like action style game.
Yeah, that's gonna be up my alley for sure.
Onimusha was solid, man. It looks cool. It looks good. So I'm willing to give this one a shot too. Are all of these Game Pass?
I don't know if this one is. This is a Capcom game. Oh no, it says day one with Game Pass on Twitter. So yeah,
Excellent. So I mean that answers
a
that
great
question.
get.
Anything that's day one with Game Pass, I don't play them all, but the ones that look good, like that one does, I'll at least try.
I'm going to group this next one in with a few things because Metaphor is a Japanese RPG from Atlas, and they announced this alongside with the Persona 3 Reload, which is a Persona 3 remake, and the Persona 5 Tactics. And here's the thing. I know I'm really excited for the Persona 3 remake. Jahan's excited for Persona 5 Tactica. And then this Metaphor game, to me, looked fun because I'm into these kinds of games. I think the thing that's worth noting here that I think is really great is that Microsoft is showing they have a really good partnership with Atlas moving forward. I believe all these games are multi-platform. They're not Xbox exclusive, but they are all coming to Game Pass, which is awesome. And especially after Microsoft brought Persona 5, 4, and 3 to Game Pass last year. Like, continue this partnership. That's always been a long-going complaint from Xbox gamers, is that Xbox didn't have like the good JRPGs and things. That was always a Sony thing. And Phil has been making it a mission to try to bring a lot of those to Xbox. It's a struggle right now because Sony's throwing all of the money at Square Enix to get exclusives from like the Final Fantasy series and the things over there, but the fact that Xbox has a partnership with Atlas is really good for Xbox gamers that like these kinds of games.
It is.
I was excited for all three of these.
It's smart for them to throw it on Game Pass to also bring in new audience from the Xbox community, because we're not the biggest JRPGers over here. So
yeah. So there's that. South of Midnight. This is the new game from Compulsion Games that had kind of a cool voodoo aesthetic to it. This was similar to Fable, where we just got like an in-game or in-engine cutscene and not really true gameplay. But considering this was a new reveal, it was something for at least to get excited for from like a vibes standpoint. I thought it looked really cool.
Cooler than Fable.
It looks much cooler than Fable. The aesthetic I like more. It's a more unique aesthetic. I feel like they gave us more of the story than Fable, because I don't think Fable's going to be about Steve Aoda beating us up in his house. I don't think that's Richard Ayoade. My bad. I said his name wrong. I just know him as the guy from the It Crowd.
That's all right. His name's just now Steve, for what it's worth.
I don't know why I said
And I believe that show is called Is it called the IT Crowd?
It's the IT Crowd. I call it the It Crowd because I think it's funny, but it is what it is.
We're getting there. We're through a lot of these. Next is Star Wars Outlaws, which was a cool, again, in-game CG trailer. However,
I was watching the whole time wondering if it was like the other game that's come out that everyone loves so much,
Survivor,
like Jedi Survivor.
No,
but they didn't show gameplay, so I don't know.
They did show gameplay yesterday at the Ubisoft conference. So that was the thing, is at the end of this trailer, they did tease that if you watch the Ubisoft showcase, you were going to see gameplay. I did watch the full gameplay trailer for this yesterday. It looked really great.
I watched the whole Ubisoft showcase. There was some stuff going on there.
There was some stuff going on there.
Star Wars Outlaws, I'm surprised. Didn't see this one. This was one of the ones I didn't see coming. And I'm excited for, very much so. It's not about Jedis, it's about outlaws, it's about scoundrels, it's about smugglers, it's about the crime syndicates. And it is Star Wars's first open world game. Truly open world.
Jedi Survivor is getting there. Like, it's pretty open world the areas that you have. But yeah, this is a true open world Star Wars game. Gary, for you who didn't watch the trailer, it is a third-person action shooter. So it started off with the character sneaking through an area and then gets caught. So it becomes a big shootout. She shoots her way out of this area, jumps through the window, has her little hover bike waiting there. She gets on a bike, drives, gets into a fight on that. So she's, in pursuit, and she takes out some guys, kind of goes into like bullet time and shoots their bikes out and makes the escape, then rides to a nearby town. So you get to see a full town that's thriving.
She gets into her ship, the Trailblazer, and
then leaves the town and go.
She blasts off into space and then has a space fight, and it's all pretty seamless. Like I don't remember a load screen, and it was crazy. It was crazy, Gary. I
The
think
load
I think it'd be
screen was
interesting.
honestly, she did jump into hyperspeed, and so I think that probably kind of acts as a load screen in itself. But you're just so amused with feeling like you're in Star Wars and going into hyperspeed.
And the
that,
cool part about the whole
it masks it.
situation was she got burnt during a deal, and an Imperial demanded a bribe, and she said no. So the Imperial put a bounty out on her, and all the Imperials in the sector came after her. But you could also accept. No, you can say
there we
yes.
go.
You can say yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
I knew that would be a sell point for you. There seems to be consequential choices, and it was very exciting. Like, this was something I was not expecting.
Consequential choices is the reason I love tabletop role-playing games so much, because consequential choices in video games just never quite have the same effect.
Yeah.
In a tabletop game, they can change the entire world. In a video game, there's limitations to what your effects can have.
Yeah.
So hearing that there's consequential effects, I'm about it. That's good to hear.
This game looks like it could be a solid 10, man. This game could do it out of nowhere. I also enjoyed the pet. You have an animal companion that you can be like, go push that button, stuff like that. That looks fun. It just looks like a good
It
time.
looks like a Muppet. 100% looks
He
like
does
a Muppet.
kind
It
of
looks
look like
It looks a bit Muppety. I think it's cute. But yeah, Star Wars Outlaws. I keep an eye on it. Yeah. Is
It
that
looks
one
like
free?
Stitch. Looks
I
like
don't believe
Stitch
so.
From Lilo and Stitch, but like mixed with one of those furry things with the stick and the string on it that you could find at the museum or at a theme park.
Yeah.
You like walk it like a puppet, but it's like a big furry monkey. That's what her pet looks like.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm about this game. I'll snort it.
I'm going to group another few together. We had Payday 3, Cities Skylines 2, which I think you're excited about, Jahan. I don't know if you were being sarcastic or
No.
serious.
See, you always think I'm sarcastic. I'm a big Sims guy. I'm a big city builder person. City Skylines 2, I didn't realize was coming out anytime soon, and it looks better than I could have ever dreamed. Like, it's a complete, like, it's not like barely a sequel. It is a complete, total overhaul. There looks like there's a lot of new quality of life improvements. There looks like there's a lot of new customization options. The graphics are overhauled. It looks fantastic. It looks like it might be the best city builder ever made, and it's going to be free on day one on Xbox. So Jahan is happy. Jahan is pleased.
I immediately replied to Jahan, I know what we're doing in October. Or in November.
Are we going to
Not
play at
October
the same
24th.
time while we're in Discord and talk to
Yes.
each other?
We're just going to play at the same time, and we're just going to lose hours of our life. Jahan and I were roommates for a few years, and there was a multiplayer SimCity game. The multiplayer wasn't even very good. You just sort of worked towards the same objectives with what your city produced. But Jahan and I would start playing that game at like 9 o'clock, and then it would be like 5 or 6 in the morning.
We
And
played
would
the
just be like,
shit out of that game, yeah.
What the hell happened? I mean, time would flash away in a city builder. I can't wait for City Skylines 2. It looks phenomenal, and I'm with Jahan. It looks like a 10 out of 10, but I won't be disappointed if it's a 9.
Me either. I won't be disappointed if it's an 8. It looks great, and I'm excited.
It does not have multiplayer, does not have co-op. They said, the studio, I looked into it immediately because I'm that guy. They said that they wanted to focus on the core experience of the game, and they felt like adding a second player took away from the core experience of the game. No matter how they tried to fit it in, which they did try to fit it in, they felt like it took away from the core experience of the game. So maybe in City Skylines 3, but almost definitely not in City Skylines 2, even as something coming later, almost definitely no.
Yeah.
See, then we have 33 Immortals, which didn't really interest me all that much, but their big thing was that it was 33 player co-op
Excited,
game.
apparently.
Yes, man, 33 Immortals, I'm about it. It's like Hades, except 33 players. You're all just storming dungeons, getting better gear in this roguelike adventure to fight a giant boss at the end.
Yeah,
It's
but your
the only
screen
thing
looks like
I've
it
ever
threw
wanted.
up.
I joke. It looks awesome.
It does kind of look
Everyone's
cool.
going to have so much bullcrap to throw at the boss. It's going to be such a good time. I can't wait for 33 Immortals. That's going to be a download for me. I'm going to put hours into 33 Immortals.
I feel like
no joke. This is going to be like a brain dead game for me when I'm not playing with friends or anything and I've just zoned out. I'm going to be crushing time on 33 Immortals.
I feel like a 33 player co-op game will do pretty well as an Xbox Game Pass game. It'll have lobbies. It'll have people. It's gonna be cool.
It definitely has that going for it because even us who are like, you and me, Jahan, we'll probably download it and try it just to
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it'll be the greatest thing ever.
So then we also got
buy 33 Immortals. I would pay like $12 for that game.
I would buy it to play with Gary. So
I wouldn't spend any more than $15, but I would spend $15 to play a 33-person roguelike co-op dungeon smasher. That seems like a good time.
yeah.
So now we've got Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which the interesting thing about this is, putting a year on it is interesting to me because does that mean you're planning to have a new iteration of Flight Simulator every year? Which now that they have it built, I'm sure they can do that and add new things. But all the new things they were adding to this, like the fire and rescue and things, actually did look pretty neat. However, I played Flight Simulator when it came out on Series X for like a day just to see what it was all about, and it's difficult and it's very much a simulator, so it wasn't necessarily a lot of fun for me. This stuff looked cool. The Dune expansion for it did look really cool, and that's probably one that I will download and play, but that is like a play one day on an afternoon to see what it's like
Just to fly a Thopter.
Exactly, and then I will be done with it.
Do you think you get to fly on Arrakis?
Oh, it
Yeah,
showed.
They
It
showed
showed
the
going
videos.
over the big sand.
Do you think you can fly
crawler.
over Arrakis in a commercial airplane? That's the real question.
Good question.
Probably not on Xbox, but
Pretty cool.
definitely on PC.
Yeah.
I thought for sure when they were showing this trailer of the Thopter and showed the big sand harvester, I'm like, surely we're gonna see a sandworm here, and we didn't. There better be sandworms in this game that can jump out and you fly over them or something. It's gotta be.
Maybe.
I
would hold your
am-
breath.
It's funny how we're sort of split on this. I don't really care about the Dune part or the Thopter, but the jobs that they showed, the new play modes, are cargo transport, air ambulance, crop dusting, VIP charter planes, skydiving, aviation, hot air balloon trips, stunt pilot stuff. And so all of it looked a lot of fun. It's, in the original Flight Simulator, you pick a craft and you fly it, and you're right, it's pretty hard. But adding these storylines and these objectives in give you a reason to want to learn, to want to do something, to want to progress a little bit more. And so I'm actually pretty excited for these sort of story mode type of things. Definitely search and rescue helicopter, I think, would be really fun, that mode. And even VIP charter. I know you're just flying from point A to point B, but when I played that Starship game with Jahan, that's all I did is I just had a cruise ship in space and just drove around in
Elite
my space
Dangerous?
cruise ship. Elite Dangerous, yeah, I just drove VIPs everywhere. So, I don't know. I think that this adding these game modes makes Flight Simulator a game instead of a simulator, and I'm excited for it, and I will be playing probably a lot of those modes just to see what they're about.
We'll move on. We're almost there. It looks like we've got about 4 games left. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. This is a sequel to the Yakuza Like a Dragon
It
series.
is Yakuza 8.
It was a pretty silly trailer of the main character waking up naked on a beach. It made me chuckle. I like the Yakuza games, but I have not played Like a Dragon. But I do have it installed on my Xbox because I've had every intention of playing it, so I probably will soon.
The Yakuza games have gotten so off track. They are so fun now, though. They initially were sort of simulatory and very story heavy, and the combat was pretty complicated and bogged down and really repetitive. You walk down the street, you take a left, you get in a fight. You walk down the street, you take a right, you walk all the way down to the shop, you get into a fight. I've played the Yakuza games. I'm not a huge fan of the series, but they have been getting better recently. And Like a Dragon was a lot of fun. This Yakuza trailer looks like it takes place in Hollywood or in LA. It looked like a bunch of American characters, I thought, responding to him. They were all like, oh my god, but he was speaking Japanese. So I think that looks fun if he's out of place, in a new place. With how bizarre this series have gotten, I'm excited to see what they do with it. I will play Yakuza Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Yeah, Yakuza 0 has a lot of silly things in it, and that's where they really did a lot of like it's a prequel, but it's one of the most recent ones before the first Like a Dragon, and they've added so much side stuff you can do and karaoke and all the crazy stuff you can do, and they can be very serious from the story standpoint, but they can also be very silly depending on some of the side quests you do. So I find them to be very amusing. I put a lot of time into Yakuza 0 and never beat it. I might actually go back into it. That's the only thing that was holding me back from playing Like a Dragon. So was excited to see more of that. And then there's 3 more original titles, and I'm going to kind of group them together. We have Still Wakes the Deep, which I believe was kind of like a horror first-person.
It's a horror first-person water fear game that takes place on an oil rig, I believe, and it looks good. I actually will play this one.
Same. And Dungeons of Hinterberg was kind of an action RPG that looked kind of fun, kind of a cartoony style. And then the last one was, is it Jusant?
Jusant, I think, yeah.
And it was just a lot of climbing. That's what I remember. There was a lot of climbing mountains. And apparently it is like a meditative action puzzle climbing game. So that's what it looked like.
There was a game for the 360 that I played. I forget what it was called, but it was like a post-apocalyptic game where like having a single bullet meant that you had power. Like it was that kind of post-apocalypse, and there's a lot of dark choices, but one of the major mechanics was you had to like do climbing, and you had to use like pittons and stuff to like rest and things like that, and it was honestly it was kind of fun. So maybe this will be too. It doesn't look like my cup of tea personally though.
Yeah, I'll probably try it, but I agree. Gary, any thoughts on any of these 3 games?
No, these are on my forgettable section of the showcase.
And yeah, that's totally fair. I do think before we wrap up this conversation, the one thing that I do want to note, I really don't like to do anything to add fuel to the fire of the whole console war, because I think the console war is dumb. To me, in a just world, we would have one console that you have every game for it.
You filthy communist. No,
right. But this is the world we're in, and I am fortunate enough. I do have a PS5 and I have an Xbox, but the Xbox has always been my primary console, so I've always been kind of rooting for it. I'm lucky enough to be able to play all those awesome PlayStation exclusives, but I root for the Xbox to do great things, and I feel like this was a show that left me feeling a little bit better after the poor showing of Redfall that launched earlier this year, which I did send you both an article that came out a few weeks ago that detailed the making of Redfall and kind of where it went wrong. And I think that there's definitely things where Microsoft can be blamed there in their mismanagement of it, essentially just not helping at all. But it does sound like a lot of, that game was started before Microsoft had acquired Bethesda, and it sounded like it was bad from the start. So it is what it is. Hopefully these games like Clockwork Revolution and South of Midnight that are truly overseen from Xbox, Avowed too, overseen by Microsoft from the ground up, from their development, it will mean good things. I try to be optimistic. That being said, there was a PlayStation showcase that just took place like a week and a half ago, and it was pretty lackluster. It was a lot of independent games, which, don't get me wrong, independent games are great and a lot of them looked fun, but I think a lot of PlayStation fans were expecting Sony to really show some new things, because really beyond this year, nobody knows what Sony's doing. Their big reveal at the end of their showcase was a Spider-Man 2 trailer, which was kind of to be expected. Now, it looked incredible. Like, it looked really, really awesome.
Yeah.
So, that is great. but it also there wasn't anything else. So
I feel like
I
I feel
think
like
that
this console war and all these like the acquisition of all these companies and all this stuff, I feel like it's just hurting everybody, man. I feel like it's just like everyone's struggling to get anything exclusive, or like that's all they care about, and like quality is just going down, man.
I think the console war is good for business, but bad for the fans.
Yeah.
yes, 100%. I mean, Square Enix is originally Final Fantasy VII Remake was available on PlayStation, and the thoughts were it was getting a year of exclusivity on PlayStation before it came to Xbox. Well, it hasn't come to Xbox, and rumor has it that Sony's just been throwing more and more money at Square Enix to have. Now, granted, they've had a partnership that has dated back since before there even was an Xbox. You know, they've been working together since the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
So it's a long-standing relationship. But you know, Final
Well,
Fantasy
to my
16
point,
is
that's
is
not
a
good for the fans.
absolutely
It's good for the business. It's not good for anyone else.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 16 being a PlayStation exclusive, and as far as I understand, not a limited window or not a limited time exclusive. It is a full-on exclusive for PlayStation. Is great for PlayStation gamers and bad for everybody else.
I've always felt
And
like if you like Final Fantasy, get a PlayStation. So like I'm not too hurt about it.
yeah, pretty much it's always been thought if you like Japanese RPGs and things like that, PlayStation is going to
I get the
place
Japanese
for you.
RPG machine. That's what they should just call it. So before we, I feel like we mentioned Starfield in the beginning, but like, I don't think.
Oh
like,
yeah, sorry, I totally skimmed over that. Yeah, you're right. This is like the main event.
Yeah,
of the whole
we
show.
kinda, yeah, I want to do the main event here. I mean, like, what were your guys' takeaway? Because like I watched everything that they showed. I watched the whole thing at the end. Watched everything.
But
I
did not watch the whole thing. I told you the showcase was running a little long for
Yeah.
me. I was getting a little bored and restless, so I didn't watch the entire thing. But I will say that I'm having to eat my words here from a couple of weeks ago. Starfield
Excellent.
is looking better than I thought. The cities look pretty populated. The clubs look populated. The streets look pretty populated, which is good because I feel like they have to be, because when you're out in the wild, I still think the world's going to feel pretty empty. But if they're countering that by making the cities feel really alive and really active, which is what it seemed like, that's how you balance it. That's how you make it fun. So I'm willing to eat my words a little bit and say that Starfield is looking better than I thought. I still don't want to set my expectations too high. I thought it might be like a 4 when it came out, but now I'm thinking this might be a 7. I'm liking the way this is looking.
Dog, I set my expectations to kill, dude. I'm ready. I'm so ready.
So I don't have that much to say about it because they showed the trailer during the initial showcase that looked really great, and it showed, I think, like what you're saying, Gary, a lot of your response is based on that trailer alone because you didn't watch the whole extended Starfield showcase. I didn't either. I watched the beginning of it and then I turned it off on purpose. Because I'm sold on it, and for me,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to see anymore. I'm not going to watch any more trailers for this game. I'm going to go in pretty blind because from what I've seen, I'm sold. At this point, I would pay $70 for it if it wasn't on Game Pass. Fortunately for us, it is. So I will have it downloaded and installed, ready to play day one. I'm all in on it just from the little bit I've seen, and I said I did see some snippets of like ship creation and things like that later on, but I did not sit and watch the whole thing because I didn't feel like I needed to. I'm already sold.
After I watched it, I watched the whole thing. I told Jenny that we have to take a break from our relationship for 2 months after that game comes out. I was just obviously kidding, but like, so I watched the whole thing. I don't know, you guys, like, I can tell you a couple snippets that are incredible.
Did they show anything about like the ship customization?
They
if and
did,
how?
Gary, and
That's
you will
probably
be
it.
very happy. It is total, complete
Okay, I like that.
customization. It's modular.
They showed like gun options and stuff.
They
or
didn't-
did
they
just show you anything?
So they showed that they have an incredible selection of, like, are you talking about run and gun guns?
No, for the ships
They
particularly.
do. have guns.
Is it like 2 types of guns? Are we talking like 10 types of guns? Because that would be awesome.
They didn't get
Rockets
too
and ion and electric and shit like that would be cool. But
they didn't get too into that, but they do have dogfights. That is a thing. You can make it's completely modular. You can build your ship however you want. Whatever you do, you get to go in there and walk through what you made. So when you put a living habitat here, when you walk in, that's where it is. That's where your cargo hold is. All that. You can build any shape you want. They already joked about showing like people building robots and like stuff like that, making ships look silly. So you can literally do anything you want.
That's what they're gonna build.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna build dicks, but
Yeah, we all know
they're gonna build dicks. There were dicks in Tears of the Kingdom day one. But
and the spaceship already kind of looks like a dick.
A spaceship already.
There's
Yeah.
not gonna. Come on, it's happening.
Yeah, they're gonna build. They're gonna build. What is it? Blue Horizon, friggin' Bezos' spaceship. That's just a penis. But yeah. So, anyways, yeah, complete ship customization. I know Gary would be all about that. The character customization's out of control. The amount of customization you can do in your level ups, they have skill trees. The skill trees look incredible. You can really do a lot with them. In character creation, you can pick optional stats like you do in Fallout kind of thing, and they can have large effects on your entire game experience. Like, they can completely change your game experience. One of them was adoring fan. It was like some sort of adoring fan thing, like you're famous, and like you have a fan that follows you. And like he's like, oh man, you're my hero, stuff like that. Like it was a lot of crazy stuff. All of it was optional. And then they also kind of talked about the division of the galaxy and like how like certain factions have like the outer rim, the inner rim. There's like all these different factions, which I didn't know was going to be a thing. And you can work for all of them. You can do stuff for all of them. You can do all kinds of like you can play. It really looked like you could play whatever game you want. And you could be a pirate, you can be a diplomat, you can do whatever you want, man. It's crazy. Combat looks solid. I am sold. I am completely sold on Starfield.
I've got no notes. That sounds great.
Gary, I am sorry to tell you that your initial prediction cannot be retracted, so it does still stand. I do understand you have eaten your words.
Yes. I won't take that back. I don't ask to take it back. In fact, I'm glad it's documented in case I was right. I don't think I am anymore. I mean, like I said, I'm prepared to eat those words, but...
What was the prediction?
If it comes, then this game was going to be bad and empty.
Yep, empty and bad.
It still could be.
It would be a disappointment.
It still could be, but I'm feeling more confident in this game after the showcase.
Me too. Yeah, they showed a lot of other stuff that I didn't talk about, like being able to set up outposts and like, oh yeah, you got to pick your ship crew. Like you can build a ship crew and stuff like that. So like, there's cool things like that. It was just tight, man. It was tight.
All right. I think that's about it for our Xbox discussion. That was a lot, and we knew it was going to be. But we still have a lot of things to move through from some of our picks of the week. Are y'all ready to move into that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. I can fly through my picks, so I'm ready for this.
Fresh picks. I can do that every week if you like, Drew.
I can start with a bunch of my stuff because a lot of it actually melds from one thing into another. If that's okay with you guys. Good?
Yeah,
good.
Go ahead, man.
Proof?
Yeah, no, I don't care who goes first. You know, that's not a thing that doesn't bother me.
I will start with these first two movies. So I did see Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, the newest entry in the Transformers franchise.
Did you watch Beast Wars as a kid? Did you like it?
I did. For just not to go into a full Transformers history, but you know, the OG Transformers cartoon was kind of before my time, right? I didn't really, and I had older sisters, so I didn't have like older siblings that loved Transformers. So I knew of Transformers and I knew who Optimus Prime was, but I didn't like grow up as a Transformers kid by any means. I did grow up as a Beast Wars kid. the show and toys were popular when I was at the prime age for it, like circa whatever year, 1997-ish, like in third grade. So yes, I loved Beast Wars. I thought the toys were awesome. I had toys of those and did not have Transformers toys. I thought the show looked awesome at that time. If you go back and watch it, it is completely unwatchable and terrible looking. But at the time, I thought it was super cool. And so I actually, for nostalgia's sake, I saw Transformers Rise of the Beasts with two friends of the show, with Zach and Kyle, because back in the day, Zach Bernard, who has been on this show one time in my place while I was out of town, he had a birthday party in the third grade that I went to, and our friend Kyle went to, and Zach had all of the Beast Wars toys, and I was amazed by it, and we played with Beast Wars the entire time. So as a nostalgia throwback, I did go see this movie with both of them, and all of us were relatively disappointed with it. Not that I had super high expectations by any means. You know, obviously the first 5 Transformers movies, all the Michael Bay movies, are varying degrees of mostly not good. They did Bumblebee, the spinoff that came out in 2018 with Haley Steinfeld, that I think is actually pretty solid. I remember that movie being pretty fun. And this movie has the weird task of being a semi-sequel to Bumblebee while also still being a prequel to the Bay Transformers movies. And it takes place in the 90s, so there are a lot of 90s jokes and humor, which are fine. But, you know, the big appeal here are the beasts, the Maximals, as they're called. And in my opinion, this was the biggest appeal of the movie, and they were not in it enough, and there weren't enough of them. There's only 4 of them that even appear in the movie, so that's already kind of a disappointment. And you know, there's just not that much to get excited about. I thought Anthony Ramos, who's the human lead in it, does a pretty good job considering you're acting alongside giant CG robots. Like, he brings some charisma to it, and I think he's doing the best that he can, and he doesn't walk away from this looking bad in any means. But the movie is fun enough, and it's definitely not an abomination like some of the latter Bay Transformers movies are. But it didn't rejuvenate the franchise for me by any means. Gary's raising his hand.
You said something that reminded me of what I need to say later in my Avatar review, so I'd like to just point it out now. You said that he did a pretty good job for acting alongside a bunch of CG robots, and that's how I feel about the kid in Avatar, the human kid who is with the Navari. I feel the same way about him. He did a great job acting with CG people. So I think it's cool to recognize actors for that. It has to be a difficult situation being the only guy in a loincloth on the set.
The difference was, you're still right, but that actor was acting alongside real people who were in mocap suits who then later became Na'vi. But still, it has to be weird for you to be the only one in makeup and costume, and they're wearing full body suits with ping pong balls all over them.
Yeah, you're the one man out, and being the one man out on set and having to act like everything is normal it's a tough gig. And I just, that's a young actor too, and I just wanted to commend him for that. And you saying that about this guy in Rise of Beasts reminded me that's commendable to be, to have to act like something else is there, and you're doing a great job and you're selling it. Good for you.
Yeah, and Anthony Ramos, he was in Hamilton, so that kind of helped launch him. And then he was in The Heights, the film version of the musical. And so now here's another big franchise. And I do think he still has a lot of charisma as a movie star, but just this movie overall for me was a disappointment. We actually, he's Pete Davidson for sure as a Transformer. Here's my thing with Pete Davidson. I don't think this is a hot take. Pete Davidson, I think that he can be, obviously he's very, very polarizing as a celebrity in general. a lot of tabloid news and things like that. As far as a movie star or an actor, I think he has a very interesting face because he's kind of odd looking, and he has an interesting voice that can be grating, but I think that if used correctly, he can be fun. And in certain things he's been in, The King of Staten Island was an okay movie. I think it was too long, but I think he's pretty good in it, and it's a movie that's kind of from the heart that Judd Apatow did a couple years ago during the pandemic, or that was released during the pandemic. He's in Pete Davidson's in Bodies, 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 and that's a movie that I really, really liked last year, and he's kind of a fun part of it. And then here, he's got an interesting voice. It lends itself well to a silly robot,
Okay.
but it's very much Pete Davidson voicing a robot.
I like
So,
Pete Davidson, so I was hoping he gets to keep his career.
He is better as Mirage in this movie than he was in his small role in Fast X, which might be a spoiler because it's kind of a cameo role, but he's in Fast X and it's dumb.
Is
So-
he a car? That'd be funny.
No, he is not. He is not a car.
Played Pete Davidson.
There is a big thing that does happen at the end of Transformers Rise of the Beasts that I kind of want to spoil for you guys, but I would only do it if you sign off on it.
I'm not gonna watch it.
So there is Gary. Is this cool with you? I mean, I know that y'all are protective of your Transformers Rise of the Beasts spoilers here, but
You already spoiled it when you told me there were only 4 beasts. I don't want to see it if there's only 4. That's all I needed to hear.
so there is a scene.
There's
okay.
only 4. All right, I'm just kidding.
Spoiler alert for the end of Transformers Rise of the Beast. So in the final action scene of Transformers Rise of the Beast, Mirage, which is the Pete Davidson robot, essentially dies, kind of, but not really. But before doing so, he passes on his transformer-ness onto Anthony Ramos, and it creates a transformer mech suit for Anthony Ramos, and he actually goes toe-to-toe with some of the evil robots. So then at the end, after this has happened, he is being talked to by somebody who is militaristic, and the guy is commending him for a job well done, and basically lets on that this guy knows that Anthony Ramos' character worked with the Transformers, and he tries to put up a facade of I don't know what you're talking about. No, I didn't, because he's trying to, protect the secrets of the Transformers and keep them hidden. And the guy's yeah, okay, whatever, slides him his card, and then the wall of the room that they're in opens up, and there's an entire military base that goes beyond that. And then Anthony Ramos' character looks down at the card he was handing, and it definitely has the G.I. Joe logo on it. So they're opening up the Hasbro verse here and trying to connect Transformers with G.I. Joe. So just be ready for that one.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
This was written before the writer's strike.
This was. You're trying to say that there's no
maybe
excuse
we don't
here?
need them all back. They can keep
Right?
those.
Yeah,
they can keep
wanna
those
get
two.
paid more, right? How do you want to get paid more when you wrote this?
Most
piece
of them
shit?
deserve to get paid more, but holy crap!
None of them who worked on any of the Transformers movies made in the past decade deserve to be paid more.
Oh man, I liked it. It turned
There
into
is-
a mech suit because that's stupid.
There is
The
a
whole
part
thing
where
is fucking stupid. I'm sorry, I was trying to use the F word less, but the whole thing is stupid. It's all stupid. I hate it. I wish it would go to hell and burn, and then it was
It's
never
big
made.
old poopies. It's poopy.
I'm a 34-year-old man, and I'm the target demographic.
there is a part where
That's
Optimus
fair.
Prime and
Or not,
Optimus
yeah, that's
Primal, where they do say roll out simultaneously, and then Optimus Primal does say maximize when the Beast Wars do transform.
Gorillas don't roll anything.
Hey, you know what? It was.
They don't have
It
wheels.
happened.
I actually think that gorillas do, in fact, roll. I've seen it in nature documentaries. They do it for fun, and it's adorable.
Okay.
So,
My
so
my
that's
mistake. I recant.
That is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. The other movie that I wanted to talk about in detail is Blackberry, which is directed by Matt Johnson, and it came out this year, kind of a short theatrical window, but it's available now on VOD. Have y'all seen the trailer for this? This is literally about the creation of Blackberry, the Canadian phone that took over for a good period of time. Which, to think that they made a movie about the BlackBerry sounds silly in theory. It's actually really solid for a biopic of this sort, because the BlackBerry is a product that had a sharp rise and even sharper fall. Because it was very, it was thrown together. It was this phenomenon that became, something that was in every businessman's pocket. It was a super hot item, and they just could not. It was mismanaged, and they couldn't keep up with the times. And as soon as the iPhone was announced, BlackBerries just got demolished. They had no plan, and they were done for. And so this movie stars Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny, and they're both really good in it.
I was like, Jay Baruchel, and I started shaking my head like, I don't want to watch it. Then you said Glenn Howerton. I'm like, damn, I want to watch it.
Is that
Glenn
Leonard and
Howerton
Howard?
He is playing it at an 11 in this movie, and he's really funny in it. And I think that if it wasn't for him, the movie wouldn't work as well as it does. Jay Baruchel is kind of, you know what to expect with him. He's like a tech genius who creates the BlackBerry, but he's yeah, and it's a lot of that. But this is very good. It's one of the better movies I've seen with him in a while. It's very much a biopic, but it's one of the more fun ones I've seen. So definitely would certify BlackBerry.
What did you say Jay Baruchel's from?
You know him from a ton of stuff, but probably from This Is the End.
Yeah,
He's the little whiny guy.
I thought you said Big Bang Theory. Okay.
No,
he's the little whiny guy.
That's why I was confused.
He's
been on a lot of those Apatow comedies with those.
No,
guys.
I know who he is. I thought you said fucking Big Bang. I was like, he's Big Bang.
No,
he's Hiccup.
The other one, Glenn Howerton, he is from Always Sunny and AP Bio.
Oh,
and he is very funny.
Okay. I mean,
he usually plays a huge narcissistic dickhead.
Yeah.
He's kind of typecast as that role because he really does crush it.
He is appropriately cast in this movie as well.
I was really
confused. I think that he would be a really funny take on Mr. Fantastic, but I also saw that he auditioned for Star-Lord and was one of their top 3 picks.
I believe that James Gunn has said if it wasn't Chris Pratt, it was gonna be Glenn Howerton. Like, he was the runner-up for the role.
Glenn Howerton would have been a hilarious Star-Lord. It would have been such a different character because he's not likable at all. He's not a lovable puppy like Chris Pratt. Glenn Howerton is hateable, and it's very funny.
So, Gary, knowing that you like Glenn Howerton that much, I really do recommend this to you. I think you'll really like the level that he's on in this movie, and the problem is it's not streaming anywhere yet. Like I said, this is on demand, so you can get it on Apple TV, things like that. I think it's $5.99 or $6.99 to rent, and it was $15 to buy. I bought it digitally, so I own it there now, but it was worth it. I recommend it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I can't believe AP Bio got canceled. It got canceled and then moved and re-picked up and then canceled again. And it was just a slap in the face. It should really be on FX or Hulu. It should be a long-time show. I really recommend AP Bio for anybody who hasn't watched it. If you're looking for a funny sitcom, it's a very funny background sitcom.
Perfect. I'm going to try to roll through some of these next few things a little bit faster, but those were the 2 big movies I wanted to talk about. I watched Arnold. This is the 3-part Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary that's on Netflix now, and it's okay. I think that Arnold is a very fascinating character, and the documentary, like I said, it's 3 parts, so it's 3 individual hours, and each hour is titled as, the first one is athlete, the second one is actor, and the third one is American. So the first hour highlights his bodybuilding career and growing up in Austria. The second hour is all about his movie career. The third hour is all about his political career and the interesting trajectory that he had. I do think that Arnold it's just crazy because he was such a big movie star in the late 80s and early 90s, like truly the biggest movie star that we had. And when you go and watch the beginning of this documentary and that first hour of his bodybuilding, you kind of get sucked into that time period and where he was at. And when he starts talking about wanting to be an actor, you're like, this guy can't be an actor. He's a giant Austrian bodybuilder. Like, there's no roles for this guy. But obviously, we know that that was not the case. And so I do think it makes an interesting case as a documentary. That being said, the first hour of the bodybuilding goes on too long, and the third hour of the political career also goes on too long. This could have been a 2-hour documentary.
3 hours of Arnold is too much.
3 hours of Arnold is
It's
too
a
much.
lot. I will say this: he's not like a producer or anything on the documentary. Obviously, he's in it and interviewed extensively, but they talk about all his faults. They talk about his misconduct allegations. He had allegations of groping several women when he was running for governor, and then of course his affairs that came up later in his career. That's all talked about, and he's pretty transparent about it. So I think that's interesting. Not everything.
I did. It was the 70s and 80s. I used to do it all the time. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to anymore.
Yeah, it talks about his steroid use. Like, it does all the stuff that doesn't necessarily paint him in the best light. But I think he's always been kind of transparent about all that stuff anyway. So anyway, I watched that, which then led me to watch Total Recall, the Paul Verhoeven movie, for 2 reasons. A, because it was an Arnold movie that I hadn't seen in full. And B, Jahan just watched Starship Troopers last week, so we were talking about Paul Verhoeven. So I'm like, I'll watch Total Recall. And really enjoyed it. Thought it was quite a trip. And I've seen the Colin Farrell remake and didn't like it very much. The OG Total Recall is awesome. I had a great time watching it. Then
The OG Total Recall might be the best sci-fi movie of all time, but also The Fifth Element might be the best sci-fi movie of all time. But I think
there's
it's
just
between those.
so many practical effects in Total Recall that are done really well. It's just so amusing, all the makeup and puppets and things that they had in it. It's just super fun to watch just from that standpoint. I also watched the first 2 episodes of this new HBO series, The Idol. Have either of you heard of this show? Just curious. No, Gary's shaking his head no. Okay, well, The Idol is the new HBO series from Sam Levinson, who's the creator and brain behind the show Euphoria. This show stars Lily Rose Depp and Abel Tesfaye. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but better known as The Weeknd, the musical star. So this show came out at Cannes Film Festival, I believe, is where the first 2 episodes were shown, to huge critical backlash, like major negative reviews. If you read these, like the consensus from things like Rotten Tomatoes, it says that it's just extremely sleazy, as sleazy as the industry it's trying to satirize, that it's, people have referred to it as like revenge porn, a tawdry tale of sex gone scary, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's been pretty torn apart in the reviews, which of course Sam Levinson was like, great, that's the type of reception we want. Like, more people are going to watch it because of that. I did watch the first 2 episodes of this, and I'm kind of with those reviews. Like, it's definitely out there. Essentially, the story is...
Man, the synopsis even, like, it doesn't do it any justice. Based on what you've told me, reading the synopsis, it's just like, yeah, it does kind of sound like a bad porn story.
Yeah, Lily Rose Depp plays Jocelyn, who's like a pop idol who recently had a mental breakdown after her mother passed away from cancer, and so she suffered mental breakdown and they put her career on hold. So now it's like 8 months later, she's trying to put out a new album and get a new tour started, and like they're trying to get on board. Meanwhile, she meets this character named Tedros. It's played by The Weeknd, who's like, he's like a club owner, but it alludes to like he might be involved in sexual trafficking, and he's just a total scumbag that she is like into for some reason. and starts inviting him into her life and career to the dismay of all of her friends and managers around her, and they know that he's extremely toxic and not good for her. That being said, he's terrible in this. Like he's not an actor, and he's very bad in this from the bit I've seen. Like it's just to the point where you laugh out loud watching some of these line deliveries, especially in these like over sexualized moments and things. I mean, this is definitely a show with a lot of nudity, a lot of it's out there. It's very gratuitous in that regard, and
But
that's
his
been
name
kind of
is
Sam Levinson
Tedros.
style.
He's Tedros, the self-help guru, and he's the head of a contemporary cult.
Yeah. So there's it's a lot.
It
There's
sounds
some
good.
there's some good supporting cast members here. Like Hank Azaria is in it, and I like him. Jane Addams is in it, who she's been in Hacks and some other things, and she's actually pretty good from what I've seen. But Lily Rose Depp is okay, but I'm just not totally. I haven't totally bought her performance yet. But man, The Weeknd is pretty abysmal.
But
But
The Weeknd
but at the
cast
same
as
time-
a cult leader is pretty good casting, because I hear everybody is working for The Weeknd.
Well, oh boy, that was no, John. I can't even get on board with that one.
I'm
No,
on board with that
it's
one.
too
That
bad.
gets a thumbs up from me. Gets the
Excellent.
go-ahead.
As long as
Yeah,
one of you
excellent.
likes it, I'm happy.
Absolutely
When
excellent.
both of you don't like it, though, that's when I'm really happy.
So here's the thing that gets me in the synopsis. It says she resolves to reclaim her title as the sexiest pop star in America. So this isn't a story about her musicality or her redeeming qualities. It's just a sex story. It's all about sex. And, there you go.
And it's one of those things where, like, again, it's a satire, and it's very much pulling from like Britney Spears and people like that who've had very highly publicized mental health issues and things like that. Like, and yeah, to your point, they talk about that too. Where like they're talking about her tour, and they need these 14-year-old girls to buy tickets and things, and that's who she's appealing to. But then like all the dancing is so over sexualized, and she's like hardly wearing clothes. Like it looks like if she just moved the wrong way, the clothes would completely come off. It's just, what we're trying to sell to young women in our country through pop stardom is not necessarily the ideal thing. Like it gets into all that.
I just want to hear you say tour again.
But it is, I would say, ultimately, the show's pretty gross, but it's like a train wreck that you can't look
It
away
sounds
from.
kind of gross.
So I've watched the first 2 episodes. I think there's only supposed to be 6 total. You can stream it on Max if you want to do that to yourself. But yeah, and it airs on HBO on Sunday evenings. It has taken the Sunday night slot from Succession. So
Oh, that's not good.
Righteous Gemstones is back, though.
Oh, nice.
Yes, something to actually watch on HBO that's worth a damn.
Drew, I gotta ask,
Oh.
is that how you say tour, or are you fucking with me?
sure.
Okay. That's not what you were saying. You were saying tour. You kept saying she's going on tour. Like you kept doing that. And I was like, is that real?
Oh yeah, it was probably real.
Oh, okay.
I have no recollection.
I don't think he was doing
It wasn't
it.
deliberate.
No, there's no bit. The other thing I wanted to know, so in The Idol, in the first episode, there's a scene where Jocelyn, the main girl, and The Weeknd's character are watching Basic Instinct, which is another Paul Verhoeven movie that I hadn't seen. So I watched that as well. Don't have much to say about it. Sharon Stone in that movie is like stunning, and it's a really great movie star performance. And Michael Douglas is being Michael Douglas, and it's actually a pretty solid sex thriller from what it was in the early 90s. I don't know if it fully holds up well, but yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. So there's that. I'm not going to dwell on that too long. The other thing I wanted to mention, the last thing I'm going to mention, I know I've been going on for a while and our show's running long, but I wanted to just mention Jury Duty, because I did talk about it. Gary talked about it first a few weeks ago, and then I think I spoke about it a week or two after because I had started it up. But I did finish it. Gary, did you finish Jury Duty?
Yes, I did, and I thought I was talking to you about the ending episode, how I don't like most reunion episodes in reality shows, but I really liked the way they took him behind the fourth wall. in
Yes.
the final episode. Instead of it being a reunion show like most reality shows, they did something fresh. That's what I wish Survivor would do, or any of those shows. I wish they would show you where the crew slept and where the cameras were kept and how they charge their stuff. I want to see the production. And I think Disney's gotten good about showing us the production, so I loved it. I loved the last episode and showing the behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'll just say my overall review of this show is very positive. I do think the first 3 or 4 episodes are super solid when you're kind of getting into the premise and the bits and the jokes, and I think it's really good. And then I think it kind of stalls out for a couple episodes. I kind of got it. I got the humor, I got the joke. There's still some funny bits there, but I was kind of ready for it to be over. And then, but the conclusion is worth it. Like you said, kind of showing the main guy that they got is just phenomenal. They couldn't have cast somebody better to be this unsuspecting guy. And he's very grateful and gracious when they reveal everything to him, and I think he handles it really well, and it's fun to see behind the curtain, like Gary said. So overall, I think this was a very great show. The other reason I wanted to bring it up, so it's just worth noting, I saw that this show has become Amazon Prime Freevee and Prime Video in general's highest watched half-hour show on the service. So the highest watched half-hour comedy or half-hour show on Freevee, but also in all of Prime Video. Worth noting because they only spent about $2 million an episode on this show. So this whole show is 8 episodes. It's made for $16 million is what that equates to. This is the same company that paid $50 million an episode for Rings of Power. And a show that we liked for the most, kind of, and talked about. It didn't make any of our top 5 lists for last year. We stuck with it, but it doesn't seem like Rings of Power really got the views that Amazon was hoping that it would get, especially considering how much money they spent on it. Other than us talking about it and a few of our friends, I don't feel like Rings of Power was in the cultural zeitgeist really at all. Yet Jury Duty has. Jury Duty clips have been on TikTok. It's been out there. It's gone kind of viral. And so to hear it getting it's just funny how these services can put all this money into a show like Rings of Power.
More money does not make a better show. More money doesn't make a better video game. More money doesn't mean anything.
There's another show on Prime Video right now called
learn.
Citadel. Have y'all heard of that?
Nope.
There's a show on Prime Video called Citadel that's another one like Rings of Power that they dumped about $50 million an episode into it. And I think the Russos are producers on it, and it was that they dumped a lot into it, and nobody's talking about it. It's just totally fizzled. It got terrible reviews, but the production value is supposed to be super high on it because they spent so much money on it. But yet Jury Duty, that's essentially like a candid camera show, is the one that has gotten the viewership
here, which is it's about the long joke. You can just fool one guy for 8 or 10 episodes, and we're all here for it. We're in on it. I don't necessarily need to see Jury Duty again, but the same producers making a similar kind of show, maybe like a grocery store show where the one guy didn't realize that he, was working at a fake grocery store or something. I don't know.
I'd watch that. That'd be really funny.
Yeah, I think there's some premise there for people doing outrageous things and everyone being in on it except for one guy.
He starts opening chips. There's nothing in there.
And everyone else acts like it's a normal store the whole time. They're all just in on it, and he's starting to have psychosis from how fake the store is or something. I don't know. There's something there in that playing a prank on a normal guy over a long period of time. I'm about it. I know that you have to sequester them to make it happen, so it probably limits your options to what you can do. But I'm all for it. Maybe a cruise ship scenario.
Like a beach resort or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me more. Give me more of that. I don't need more Lord of the Rings ripoffs that are super expensive. That didn't do anything for me.
That's fair.
Perfect. That's all my fresh picks of the week. I know that was a lot. Thank you all for bearing with me and for letting me talk so much. Jahan, I'll kick it to you because I see you have one movie on your list.
I have one thing that I watched, really. I mean, I've been doing my normal thing with Tears of the Kingdom.
That's it for our time, everybody. Thank you. Come back next
they're playing
week
me off. I watched Flaming Hot on Hulu and Disney Plus. I believe it's on both. I think we watched it on Disney Plus. This is the based on a true story creation of the Flaming Hot Cheetos by a Frito-Lay's janitor named Richard Montanez, who got the idea for Flamin' Hot Cheetos because the company was, the factory was going to close, company wasn't doing well, and he realized that there was a huge untapped market in the Mexican community because they didn't make flavors and they didn't market products to Mexicans. And, like, there's a lot in the story. They talk about racism and, like, the stuff he had to deal with growing up. They touch on it. This is directed by Eva Longoria, which is interesting. She's been very involved in this kind of filmmaking for a while now, where she's like trying to promote Hispanic culture, and I think it's impressive what she's doing for the Hispanic people. And this movie is really good. It's entertaining. It's not, it's not a blockbuster, but it is entertaining. It's interesting to see, the from rags to riches story. People love. Tony Shalhoub's in it. He's good as one of the. Well, I think he's the CEO of Pepsi, Roger Enrico. If you've ever heard of that guy, but it's a good one. My dad started crying at the end. It was really funny. He just started sobbing because, like, it was. I don't know. It is pretty touching. It's a good movie with a lot of heart, and it's on streaming services.
Story too, man. So it probably hit your dad in some certain strings that some of us don't have.
It was the
good spot
in his American Dream strings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he probably saw someone else hit their American Dream, and it probably made him fucking open up. Hell yeah.
No, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I mean, yeah, my dad. Yes, that's what happened. But yeah, it was good stuff. Recommend. Check it out. It's on Disney Plus.
Perfect. Gary?
Speaking of Disney Plus, I watched Avatar Wet. But I didn't watch it on Disney Plus. I watched Avatar Wet on Max. And I gotta say,
to clarify, you watched Avatar The Way of Water. You did not watch the original Avatar while wet.
That is correct. Okay. I watched the one where they're wet the whole time.
Okay.
Well,
I've seen that one, and I think that's a parody.
No, that's Cats you're thinking of.
Okay.
So the first hour, they were still in the forest, and it was not The Way of Water, and I was really bored. It was just the same movie. And then we got to the water place, and I was like, oh, this could be pretty cool. And then they started like a teen romance thing where one of the boys was falling in love with one of the Water Tribe girls, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. This is horrible. But then there was an awesome, like, hour-long battle in the bay, and everything about that battle was so awesome and so watchable that they should just always make Avatar movies. They should make, like, 5 more Avatar movies that are just battles in the water or battles the whole time, always just constant explosions and battles. It was so cool. Just skip forward. Just skip forward, man. Just skip it. It's really dumb. They had an Avatar kid. There's another Avatar in the cloning thing still, but she was pregnant because it's a mystery clone, like a little Jesus baby clone. They have 4 fingers instead of 3. The whole thing is just skip it. Just skip all of that bullcrap straight to the Water Tribe, because then they get there and you already know the story of Avatar, man. There's nothing new here. People are here to tear up all their crap. All right, so just get there. All right, so there you go. Skip forward. The movie's pretty good if you skip the first, 2 hours.
I was so ready to have my pitchfork out on this one because you had initially messaged me when you were watching this, but you had just said that when you were halfway that you really hated it and were debating even continuing. And I kind of thought you hadn't finished the movie, so I thought that was going to be your review. I'm so glad you got through it because that would have been my defense. Is like the last hour is truly some of the best action I've seen in a few years.
The last hour is awesome.
Especially having watched something like Wakanda Forever recently, that they came out close together and they both have big water set pieces, and Avatar The Way of Water just of course blows it no pun intended, out of the water, clearly. But I guess to your point, I can understand your viewpoint, how you watched it streaming now these days. I saw it in a theater and had a really great viewing experience. And that middle hour, I do understand how at home watching it could be boring. I was watching it on the big screen and it all looked so amazing that I was like, I could watch 2 more hours of this. Like I was so into the
I was
whales
like
and
trying
water
not to
lore.
puke all over myself from how bad the script was. It was, you gotta be with your family. It's all about the protecting your family, and the main character is just good at everything. Everything he does, he's always good at. He rolls natural 20s on everything through every movie. It's horrible to watch. He's just the hero. It's absolutely dreadful, but the action in the last hour is awesome. Just skip forward and watch it, and then probably watch that last hour on repeat like 3 times, and then that's so that was Avatar Wet. I also watched Barry, all of it. I watched all of Barry from season 1 to season 4 finale, which I finished like maybe 2 hours ago. I loved the finale, by the way. That was super artful.
No spoilers.
And the episode before the finale was like jaw hit the floor. What an episode, man. Barry is the kind of series that just, I'd say it continues to give the whole time. And my only complaint was I was just never a fan of Sally Reed. She's the female
Love
counterpart
her.
of Barry. I didn't like her. I didn't like her the whole time. I didn't like her from episode 1. I was waiting for her to get killed in season 2 as part
The
of
female
plot.
lead?
Yeah, the female lead. I was waiting for her. I always thought she would get killed, but she's up until the end, and I just didn't like her character's
So
motivations by the end. I just didn't. I didn't connect with the character anymore by the end. I didn't think she was believable. I just didn't like Sally Reed. Absolutely loved the rest of the series across the board. Every character, every supporting character. I'd like
Are
to
you a
watch
Gene Cousineau fan?
Oh my God, Gene Cousineau is
Gene Cousineau's great.
truly a fantastic character. I love Henry Winkler.
Henry
right?
Winkler's fantastic.
When he's used correctly. Like, I remember him as the coach from Waterboy. And I think that's just a fantastic use of him. And I think when he's used correctly, he's hilarious. And he's definitely used correctly in Barry.
Yeah, me and Jen watched season 1, so we are watching the show now. I also can't stand that character you're talking about.
Sally?
Yeah, I can't. I hate her. She's the worst.
Yeah, she doesn't change, man. She never gets better. She, in fact, only gets worse in the final season. You're like, this character, like, I don't understand. Seriously, I said to Annie, I don't understand her motivations anymore. I really don't know what that character's gonna do. It's just like, it's just, she's just not well fleshed out, in my opinion. But Fuchs, oh my God, what a fucking cockroach. I love Fuchs. What an amazing performance across the board. Seeing him and thinking, he's the where's my stapler guy, and how far he's come from Office Space. And by the end of season 4, the character that he becomes, Fuchs just has a great storyline. Hank has a great storyline. I'd watch a Hank Fuchs spinoff. It's a great show, man. And ending at 4 seasons was the right choice. They don't need a 5 or a 6. They shouldn't have stretched it out. It's just perfectly paced. Just a win. An absolute win overall. I'm glad I watched it.
So I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to spoil anything, Jahan, because I know you're still getting there. But friend of the show, Zach, who I mentioned earlier as somebody that I went and saw Transformers Rise of the Beasts with, he also watched Barry, and he said he thought the finale should have ended with a big climactic moment that happens in the finale, and he did not like the last, 10 minutes, or essentially the stinger to the show. I told him he was so wrong, that that's the whole point of the show, is that stinger. Like, that is what brings everything together. And so, Gary, I just want to hear your general take on the actual ending of the series in general, in to make sure that we can tell Zach, who I know listens to the show, that he is wrong.
Yeah, the last 10 minutes were absolutely amazing. And Jahan, like, earmuffs for like 10 seconds. Barry being remembered as a hero in spite of everything Gene did was absolutely great.
Yeah, it's the whole point. It's the whole payoff to everything. Is Gene's?
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
No,
You're
I'm
good.
good,
He's
I'm
got
back.
his head. Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. I love it. It was wonderful. Loved it. 10 out of 10, man. I don't give things 10s. Maybe it's a 9. I'll have to think about it. I'm saying 10.
I
because of
haven't seen the
recency bias,
finale.
Right. I just watched it.
I haven't seen the finale, but I'm always happy to tell Zach that he's wrong.
Yeah,
So,
no, he
yeah.
is.
Zach, you're wrong.
All right, so I got one last thing. I'll be quick. Diablo 4. Drew probably talked about it already on the stream while I was
I did.
gone
I talked
a
about
little
it
bit.
last week a little bit.
I just wanted to say, as a guy who's played the Diablos, I didn't really ever get into Diablo 2. I had a bad computer, and all my friends played it, and they loved it, but I wasn't that guy. Diablo 3, same way. I was more into the co-op story. I didn't play with my friends, and I'm the same way with Diablo 4. My wife and I played Diablo 3. I was living with my brother at the time, so the three of us played the whole campaign together. It was a blast. So now my wife and I are playing Diablo 4 together. We've already rolled 2 sets of characters, so we're absolutely loving it. Things that they've changed are quality of life stuff. The world map is easier to navigate. It makes a lot more sense than it used to, instead of like plowing through acts. I don't know if there are acts the further you get in the game, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like
If
one
you
world
if
map.
you look at your actual campaign missions, like if you go to open your map and open your missions, the story missions tell you what act they're associated with. But at the beginning of the game, you can do missions from acts 1, 2, or 3 at any time. You can do them in any order, but you can't do act 4 until you've finished all the previous ones.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it's all in one big open world. So I just walked around and unlocked a bunch of waypoints pretty early so I can get around the world with some ease. But I like that the world's not constantly changing. The dungeons the whole world is populated, so you're leveling the whole time you're going, and you level at a very good rate. But if you need to stop by and level, there are dungeons on the side that are more like a traditional Diablo experience. Some of the other things they changed, the health potions are way more functional than they used to be. Now you don't have to carry a bunch of different sizes. You just have 4, and you can upgrade them at the potion person eventually when you're that level, which is multiples of 10. So you just get the potion, and when you kill bad guys, they drop potions, and that's that. You don't have to keep going back to town and refilling potions. You don't have to have town portals, scrolls. It's just down in the D-pad if you're a console person, so you don't have to load up on scrolls anymore. The inventory space, weapons aren't bigger than helmets or scrolls or potions or anything. Everything is one inventory size, so the inventory is easy to manage. And with infinite back to towns, you can always go back, scrap your stuff, or sell it. I think that Diablo 4 is a definite progression in the Diablo series. If you are on the fence if you'll like it or not, as a Diablo person, you played them, will I like this one? Yes, I think you will. If you don't like Diablo, this one's not going to change your mind. It's not going to win you over. It's still Diablo. It just has nice quality of life changes for the players. I love that it's couch co-op, and I look forward to more DLC and more classes, and I'm curious to see what they do with their seasons. So I'll probably put some time into it, but I don't like the Diablo late game grind. I'll probably just run 5 characters through the campaign and see how that works out for me. That's it on Diablo. I say it's fresh. I'd say, yeah, if you're Diablo player, if you want to buy it, buy it. If you want to, if you've been thinking about it, do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it, because it's not an epic change or anything. Okay, that's it for me. You guys got anything else?
Nah, dog.
That's it. This has been a jam-packed episode. I think we're almost at about 2 hours just because there's been so much to cover. But I do think that's it. I believe next week the goal will be to talk about The Flash. If y'all are up for it, that's the next big theatrical release. We've been told by James Gunn and the powers that be that this is a good movie and we're supposed to like it. So
We've been lied to by a lot of people. I will see it, and I will shit on it.
I don't know if I'll go see it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I do think John wants to join us next week, so we might be talking about it. We'll see. We'll see. But that's
I'm
a
gonna
big
be
one.
okay with spoilers. You know,
Okay. Fair
it's the Flash. I don't care. I might
Sometimes
just
I look
these
forward
two-
to just explaining the plot badly to Gary. So
I was going to say, it would be a pretty good bit, us trying to explain what happens to Gary without him having seen it. So that does kind of sound like a good gimmick.
I think we all know what happens already. The Flash, time, whoops, fix it.
Pretty much.
And then DCU. Yeah,
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, we got it.
that's what happens.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, otherwise, that's it. This has been episode 91 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I have been Johananon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG, and you can find me at Casualty CDG. You can find Jahan and I every Thursday and Friday at twitch.tv/Johananon, where we're playing tabletop role-playing games and painting miniatures, hanging out with our fans and our crew and our friends and everybody else. Just stop by twitch.tv/Johananon and say hello. We also have a YouTube. You can find us at Fresh Out the Box TTRPG. That's everything from Casualty CDG. Thank you.
And I'm Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And thank you again for listening to episode 91 of Fresh Out the Podcast.
Stay fresh!